About 10 yards outside the Australian 25. Kelly, front row forward, taking it out to the blind side of the field. Play now about 10 yards on Australia's side of halfway, close to touch on the grandstand side. Fullback Langlands kicks, but not a good kick by Langlands. And the first scrum of the game is to be set in Australia's half. About 10 yards outside. Be 25. You can see the 25-yard line there near the bottom of the picture. First scrum of the game. Now, although the game is in progress, perhaps we could run through the two teams for you. There are 2 or 3 changes in the Australian team, which played the first test against New Zealand in Sydney a little earlier. And the fullback for Australia this afternoon is Graham Langlands. On the wings are Ken Irvine and Les Hannigan, numbers 2 and 5. Reg Gasnier, the captain of the Australian team, and John McDonald of Queensland, playing his 4th game of football test against Great Britain last year. Now here's a nasty incident. Unfortunate clear up in the early stages of the game. This is quite nasty. Referee Carl Pearce, as you can see, has the players now under control, but there'll be several out here. Sure. Quite a few fish flying there from several players. You can see just which players now are called out by referee Carl Pearce. The player on the ground, unfortunately I can't see him very well. You can see him as well as I can, but it may be 5'8" Johnny Gleeson, the Australian scrum half. Yes, it is Gleeson, but I don't think he's badly hurt. You can see he's in a sitting position, and I'm sure, well, at least I hope, we'll be able to continue for the Australian team. And by the way, 2 players have been ordered off by referee Cole Pearce. We can see them. We're at Noel Kelly of Australia, and number 10 for New Zealand is Robin Orchard. 2 prop forwards have been ordered off in the first minute of play. Now, this is most unfortunate, a very bad start to the second test match at Lang Park in Brisbane. Now, the referee has taken his drastic action of ordering off these 2 forwards early in the game, and play will proceed with this scrum on the Australian 25-yard line. By the way, play has been in progress now. There's no timeout for an incident such as that. Play has been in progress for almost 3 minutes, and here's the first penalty of the game to New Zealand. And Roger Tate, the fullback, has been called up to take the kick. Roger, the fullback, should kick the goal from this position to give New Zealand an early lead in the second test match. And this is a vital test match for New Zealand. Just how vital we'll be told, I'm sure, by Reg Cook, former New Zealand international, who's working with me this afternoon.
Yes, this is certainly a vital test for New Zealand. They have to win this one to keep the series alive. And this incident which just arose is really very unfortunate. It's not good for the game, and it really hasn't done any good at all.
Now here's Tate. Very important kick, and it looks good. It's a goal by Cook. So it's first blood to New Zealand in the second test. New Zealand 2, Australia 0. And that's Smith running up towards the halfway line with the ball. He'll place it now in the centre of the halfway line for the kickoff. Now, I was running through the Australian team, and I got to 5'8" Gleeson. The halfback, of course, is Bill Smith. The lock forward of the Australian team is John Raper, who is also the vice-captain. In the second row are Ron Lynch and Alan Thompson. The prop forwards were Noel Kelly and Peter Gallagher, but of course Kelly has been ordered off the field. The hooker is Alan Buman. Now play dangerously close to the New Zealand line. This is on the New Zealand 25-yard line, but that was a bad pass by the Australians, and it's New Zealand in possession now. But there's going to be a penalty. Referee Cole Pearce has ruled that the New Zealand backs were standing too close as that ball was played inside the 5 yards. And now here's a great chance for Graham Langlands, the Australian fullback, to level the scores. Langlands, as you can see, is placing this ball right in the centre of the 25-yard line. So he's in front of the posts for this attempt at penalty goal, which should level the scores. This is an easy one for Langlands. Here's Langland's kicking. This will be a goal, and it's 2-all. New Zealand 2, Australia 2, after only about 6 plays first half. And now it's New Zealand's turn to kick off, and I may take this opportunity. I'll run through the personnel of the New Zealand team. The fullback is Roger Tate. The wingers are Bill Southern and Ted Baker. In the centre are Roy Christian and Roger Bailey. Roy Christian is not a recognised centre. He's a recognised winger, but he's playing centre for New Zealand this afternoon. The 5/8 is Bob Irvine. The halfback is Paul Schultz. Lock forward Ray Sinnell. In the second row are Tony Krilitich and Kevin Dixon. The props, Robin Orchard, who has been sent off now, and Oscar Danielson, and the hooker is Colin O'Neill. Now play very close to the Australian line, but it's Australia in possession. That's Gallagher now trying to make progress through the ruck, trying to drive the New Zealanders back from the Australian line. They're only about 12 yards out from the Australian line and over on the grandstand side of the field. Now that pass was straight back to Langland's, but again the New Zealanders are inside the 5 yards. And this will relieve the situation somewhat for Australia. Graham Langland's again the kicker. He's kicking towards the grandstand side. But a good kick by Langland's too. He's gained a lot of ground with that one. Taken play into New Zealand's half by about 5 yards, and it's Buman taking the second kick on to Raper, to Gleeson, the 5/8, and here's a reverse pass back to Lynch in amongst the forwards, but Lynch was well marked there. Lynch plays to Smith at dummy half, and to Raper, who's lost the ball. If New Zealand can gain possession, there'll be an advantage. And it is New Zealand's ball. Played back now and passed out. That second rower, Kevin Dixon, or is no, it was O'Neill, I'm sorry, the lock forward. And now the Australians infringe the 5 yards rule. These two teams a bit anxious, Reg, in the early stages.
Yes, they both being up within the 5 yards, and Cole Pearce is being very severe. He's not letting either side away with anything at this stage. Not possible that he should, but he's being very severe with his penalties.
Doesn't gain very much ground with that kick, but of course he put it over the touchline safely, which means that New Zealand will retain possession with the second kick. And here it is by O'Neill, the hooker. Pass to Dixon. He picked that one up well from his toes. Could quite easily have knocked that one on. It's on the halfway line now. Dixon of New Zealand has played it. Pass goes out to Sinnell, the lock forward, and on to another one of the forwards. Can't see him properly. It's the prop forward, Oscar Danielson. Play on halfway. This is Sinnell, the New Zealand lock forward, but there's no opening there. He's over the halfway line though, and play is just a few yards in Australia's half. Schultz and out to the centres, but again the Australians infringed the 5 yard rule. Gallagher was the man at fault then. He was standing well up. He was quickly out of the 5 yards when he heard the whistle, but Gallagher was the man mostly at fault, and the man whom referee Cole Pearce penalised. Now, this is a much more difficult kick for Roger Tate. He's going to attempt another goal, but this time he'd be only 10 yards on Australia's side of the halfway line. Now, this gives you an indication of the distance. He's 10 yards in Australia's half, but near centre field. Great, who didn't kick well. New South Wales has been kicking very well, I understand, during this tour of Queensland. Roger Tate, the kicker. Bad looking kick either, but just a little low and out to the right. That's Langland's running for Australia, back to the 25 yard line. A nice tackle by Irvine, the New Zealand 5/8 today. Normally a half. Now the ball's played. That's Lynch. Lynch trying to clear the ruck, but the New Zealand forwards moved out smartly. Back to Buman and on to Raper, the Australian lock forward. No opening there. He hit Danielson very hard, but came to a full stop as you saw. That's Langland's kicking. Good long one too from Langland's. This is forcing Tate right back over his own 25. Trying to elude Hannigan there, but Hannigan held onto his jersey. Got some assistance from Buman of Australia. New Zealand, not too many New Zealanders back there as that ball was picked up by McDonald. Give it to Irvine, and Irvine will score. Or has it gone forward? No, referee Cole Pearce has ruled that it went forward to Irvine. Noel Pearce has ruled a forward pass from McDonald to Irvine. And so it's a scrum. Well, that was a let-off for New Zealand.
Oh, a stupid pass there from the New Zealanders. Bad play. There weren't even enough men there to pass.
Australian scrum. That's Gleeson on a McDonald, but Bailey's well up there, assisted by Irvine. McDonald will have to play just inside the New Zealand 25. It's Raper. Well, it's a long pass, and Langland's up in the line. Langland's making good ground. He's near the line. Brought down very close. Seemed to lose the ball there. Went forward. Grounded then by one of the New Zealanders, and the goal line dropout will follow. Another close call for New Zealand.
There's been a bit of mishandling in the Australian side at this stage. Raper's dropped a couple. Billy Smith knocked one on, and then Langland's lost that one on in a very dangerous position.
Langland's a very dangerous man when he moves up into the back line as he did then, and Raper knew exactly where he was and threw that very long pass. Now this is Lynch of Australia on the New Zealand 25. There's nowhere for him to go. Lynch now to Smith. Smith reverses play here. Gleeson taking it around the line, making progress too, but a good tackle by Dixon, the New Zealand second row forward. First dummy half to Smith. To Lynch standing wide and back into Gallagher, the prop forward, but he's well marked. Now Gallagher to Gallagher on the New Zealand 25. Few minutes dummy half for Australia. Passes to Smith, and there's the short kick after the third tackle. Smith following through, but Tate handles safely for New Zealand. Australia got the ball there somehow from Tate, with Gleeson now onto McDonald. McDonald going through to the corner. He might score. He's in. McDonald of Australia. Queensland Centre has scored, and that's Australia 5, New Zealand 2 after 11 minutes.
Yes, McDonald showed a wonderful turn of speed to get through that gap then, and the Australian cover the New Zealand cover defence was very slow in getting across, and McDonald was virtually untouched to score that try.
Very nice move with the ball at McDonald. I was very impressed with him in the Interstate Series last year, and then in the little time that he was on the field against England, or Great Britain, I should say, in the first Rugby League Test of last year. McDonald, unfortunately, was injured early in that game. Had to leave the field and didn't resume playing until recent weeks. This is his fourth game of Rugby League since the first Test in Sydney last year, and he scored the first try of the side. New Zealand is 5-2 after almost 13 minutes of the first half. Now let's come half short of New Zealand. Side, but it's Lynch picks up. Nice sidestep, almost got him through the gap, but he was nicely tackled there by the centre Roger Bailey. Good run by Smith from dummy half. Raper backed up nicely, held by Danielson, but he's got the ball away. Looks like McDonald, is it there? Thought, yes, it is. Inside the New Zealand 25. To Smith now, but he's dropped the ball.
The New Zealanders at this stage are tackling very poorly. They're trying to go too high, and it's not working. The Australians are brushing through on the burst and causing them all sorts of trouble.
This is an Australian scrum, but Smith couldn't do much with it. Bailey coming through, but he's knocked on. The advantage here is Irvine picks up. It's Langland's now for Australia. Back inside to Irvine, but a bit too far forward. Irvine knocked it on. Referee will rule the scrum. Just outside the New Zealand 25-yard line, and players about 15 yards in from touch on the grandstand side of the field, for those of you who know Lang Park. There's very little breeze blowing here this afternoon, by the way. What there is coming from the northwest. It's very light and will have no effect on play. This is Smith, a good run from the scrum to Raper inside, and Raper will score. Raper for Australia, over to score Australia's second try, and it's Australia 8, New Zealand 2 after 16 minutes of play.
New Zealand seem very flat-footed in comparison to the speed of this Australian team, and I'm sure there's going to be real problems for them unless they start getting out of these scrums and getting up in these fader balls and stopping them with good low tackling. They just cannot match the speed in no way, and no department at all can they match the speed of the Australian team.
Again, Langlands will be the Australian kicker. A much easier one for Langlands this time because Raper went through about 10 yards outside the right upright.
Langlands has
The ball placed inside the 25 yard line. Now there's the distance. It's
a lot of fun. But he's missed it. To the right of the post, no goal.
It's 8 points to 2. Australia leading. Tries by McDonald and Raper. A
Penalty goal by Langlands.
as against a penalty goal by Tate for New Zealand. We've now had 17 minutes of play in the first half. Langlands now has kicked 1 goal from 3 attempts. Tate has 1 out of 2 for New Zealand. Well, Tate was coming up to kick off, but it was Schultz who actually took the kick out to the forwards, dropped by Gallagher, and the New Zealand forwards in position to pick up. This is on the Australian 25-yard line now. It's Dixon at dummy half. Pass away. Nicely, it's gone out to Irvine, the 5'8", but Irvine will mark just outside the Australian 25-yard line and right in centre field. Neil, the dummy half, but Australia again inside the 5 yards, and here's another opportunity for New Zealand fullback Roger Tate to kick a penalty goal. And this has been awarded right on the 25-yard line and not far from centre field.
The New Zealanders seem hesitant on attack. Instead of getting right on with the job and bursting onto the ball, they seem to be slowing up, not really moving smartly onto the ball, and they're going to suffer very dearly for this bad mistake unless they improve immensely.
Roger Tate, New Zealand fullback, attempting the penalty goal. This is a goal by Tate. Nice kick. 8-4 in favour of Australia. Australia 8, New Zealand 4 after 18 and a half minutes of play. What effect do you think the absence of these two forwards now will have on this game? Obviously, they're going to find it a little more difficult, both teams, with only 12 men out there. Do you think it will have any big effect on play, Reg?
Well, I think it's going to definitely have an effect on New Zealand more than Australia, because New Zealand needed Orchard in this side to give these the strength in the centre of the field, which is what they lacked, plus their bad tackling in the first test. But this time they're going to be have a bigger loss than what Australia are. Australia's speed is going to be the big thing. They even look as though they're moving on and running much faster than New Zealand's at every stage.
Now, this scrum is about midway between the 25 and halfway lines, New Zealand's half, but the penalty has gone against Australia for a scrum breach. Tate once more will be the New Zealand kicker. Kick for the line on the grandstand side. Quite a good kick too. He wasn't far from touch when he took that kick, and he's gained a lot of ground. Second kick will be taken by O'Neill, only 10 yards short of the Australian 25. Now it's gone to Dixon. Dixon trying to crash through himself. Nicely tackled by the Australian second rower, Thompson. Just short of the 25. The pass this time to Danielson. Well taken there by Raper, who went a bit high, which is unusual for Raper. That's Snell, the New Zealand lock, back inside to Bailey. Long one out there to Irvine. Irvine got around one of the Australians there quite nicely, but ran into a couple more. Just short of the Australian 25. That was the third tackle. Dixon again at dummy half. Quite a bad attempt at a field goal there. This is Hannigan running for Australia. Caught just inside his own 25-yard line by his opposite number, Sutherland, New Zealand. McDonald at dummy half. Passed that one into Smith, and it's gone to Gallagher. Held by Dixon. This is in centre field, inside the Australian 25. Human at dummy half. Back to Langlands, and Langlands will kick, but it's gone off the side of the boot. He sliced it badly. It's out of the full. So this will be a scrum back, well inside the Australian 25. Only 10 yards now from the Australian goal line and near centre field. And if ever New Zealand needed to win a scrum, they need this one.
Wouldn't it appear, even at this stage, that the New Zealanders are sadly lacking the drive and leadership of Bruce Castle? the round the scrum play is not very tidy on New Zealand's behalf, and I feel that Castle could have been the answer here, definitely. Very unfortunate that they lost him.
That was Schultz who got onto that ball as it came away from the scrum. He's played it to Christian going crossfield. Oh, bad pass though towards Southern. Raper is onto the loose ball, but the referee has ruled that it was knocked on. This is about 15 yards out from the Australian line. 10 yards from touch out on the outer side of the ground. Now Schultz of New Zealand, tackled by Raper. New Zealand now in an attacking position. Dixon out to Snell. Long one to Bailey in the centre, but he's tackled hard by Gasnier, or Christian it was, not Bailey. Pass this time is to Danielson, prop forward. Snell running from the dummy half position. They're 10 yards now from the Australian line. But that was the fourth tackle. The referee, Carl Pearce, orders the scrum. Australia 8, leading New Zealand 4 in the second Rugby League Test at Lang Park. Australian ball. Smith goes to the blind. Langland's with him. Langland's over the 25-yard line. Nice pass inside to Irvine. Irvine pushes one tackle away, gets it back to Langland's. Langland's inside to McDonald, but he couldn't hold that one. Rather high. He's knocked it forward. Still going up into New Zealand's half. Picked up back there near the 25-yard line by winger Southorn. Or Southern, as I've been told he's called. Still New Zealand's ball, just outside their own 25-yard line now. Tate at dummy half. But again, the Australians have infringed the 5-yard rule. Raper that time, standing wide of the ruck, but inside the 5 yards. And Tate now has the opportunity of taking play back into Australia's half. And he finds the line just a yard on Australia's side of halfway.
It's hard to imagine why at this stage the Australians insist on getting within this 5 yards. They're getting their share of the ball from the scrums, and they're looking much more dangerous at all stages. These penalties that they're giving to New Zealand are very hard to understand.
There's a better movement there by the New Zealand forwards, gained quite a bit of ground. Now it's the back's turn. Tate up from fullback. Christian to Southern on the wing. It's trying to step inside, runs into Gleeson, but he got his pass away to Christian, but Christian nicely tackled by lock forward Johnny Raper. Inside Australia's 25. Tate now. On it goes to Bailey. Bailey puts it in the air. But it's gone wide, almost straight across field. Langland's went up in the air after that ball, but the New Zealanders ruled offside. The New Zealander who tackled him there, Danielson, ruled offside by referee Cole Pearce. Australia now to take the penalty kick. Langland's will be the kicker. He's 15 yards out from the Australian line. Will kick towards the grandstand side. The touch judge's flag is up about 10 yards on Australia's side of halfway. Buman takes the second kick, now to Raper, to Gleeson, back inside to Smith. Smith through one gap. Nice pass to Gleeson again. Gleeson over the halfway line. He has Hannigan outside, but can't get the ball away. Well tackled there by second row Krilitic. Smith again, out on the blind side. Hannigan outside, moves inside looking for the pass, but Smith can't get the ball away. He's inside the New Zealand 25. Now it's Gleeson. Gleeson to Thompson, second row. On to Gasnier. Gasnier on the 25 to Langlands, who's in a gap, and Langlands will score. Nobody there. Langlands puts it down, beside the right upright, and it's Australia 11, New Zealand 4. The third try for Australia, the scorer, Graham Langlands.
Well, Langlands once again then exploited the bad New Zealand positional play in defence, and there is no possible answer as to why they could be not even running into position at this stage when Australia are getting on top and running wonderfully well onto the ball. They're going to have to definitely improve, or this could be a cricket score.
Well, we've had 25 minutes of play now, and it's 11-4 in favour of Australia, and we've had a change of kickers. John McDonald of Queensland has been called up, and he will attempt the version of the try by Langlands. New He's on the 25-yard line, and he is right in front of the right upright. He's not far from the posts. John McDonald of Queensland, the Australian centre, attempting the conversion of Langland's try. And it's a good one, I think. Yes, a goal by McDonald. So it's 13 points to 4. Australia 13, New Zealand 4, and 26 minutes gone. Well, at half-time in the first test, by the way, it was 13 points to 7 in favour of Australia in Sydney. The score now is 13 points to 4. It'll be interesting to see just what the half-time score is now to compare it with the half-time score in Sydney. Now it's Gallagher of Australia playing to Bowman. On it goes to Smith. Smith has support. Thompson there, but he's lost the ball. New Zealand in possession. Irvine pass to Christian. Christian to Southern. He hasn't got much room. Well caught. Nicely tackled there by Gasnier of Australia, the Australian captain. Now it's Irvine on to Schultz. Schultz just short of the Australian 25-yard line. Plays to O'Neill, on went to Irvine and out to Danielson, but a bad pass to Dixon. It's knocked to the ground, and there's no advantage. Mishandled by Australia. Knocked on by both teams, so referee Cole Pearce has no option but set the scrum midway between the 25 and halfway lines, Australia's half. This is right in centre field. That's Smith, but the referee isn't happy. New Zealand's ball this time, but there's going to be a penalty against the New Zealand hooker O'Neill. Feet up, as you can see, indicated by the referee. His feet were up in the scrum before the ball went in. And the penalty for Australia is to be taken by Graham Langland.
The New Zealanders are going to need to stand much deeper any chance they get on attack to burst onto this ball. At present they're standing flat-footed and they're not running onto it at all. They're going to definitely they have to get much deeper to penetrate this wonderful Australian defence.
Nice bit of work there between Raper and Gleeson of Australia, but Raper caught a few yards short of the New Zealand 25. This is Smith, out to Lynch, McDonald. He's well and truly held by Christian in the centre. Smith now on to Gleeson. Gleeson through one tackle, but well caught. Close to the 25. That was the third tackle. Now to Smith. This kick might be too far. It is. Out on the full. Over the touchline on the grandstand side of the field. The referee will set the scrum now where the ball was kicked by Smith. And that's about 10 yards short of the New Zealand 25-yard line and not far from centre field. New Zealand scrum, yes, Schultz has the ball, but well caught by Raper. Raper is very fast around that scrum. Pass Danielson. But, trying to use his weight, found the opposition a little bit strong there from Thompson. Dixon, he's under one tackle, or almost, from Lynch. O'Neill was, not Dixon. Dixon a dummy half. Out to Snell, back inside now to Irvine. Kick for touch. Hannigan there, he's mishandled though. And as you can see, thrown over the touchline, and there's going to be a penalty against New Zealand. Referee Cole Pearce had obviously called on Hannigan to play the ball before he was thrown over the touchline. Raper. Lynch now. Gallagher, but he's dropped it on halfway. Quickly back onto the ball, but referee Cole Pearce has ruled that it went forward from Gallagher. So it's another scrum. Right on halfway, close to the touchline on the outer side of the ground. There's a view, we don't know, going back the eastern side, but a penalty from the scrum to New Zealand. Roger Tate will be the kicker. Good kick by Tate. And the second kick for New Zealand will be taken not far from the Australian 25. Taken by O'Neill. Pass to Shulson onto Irvine, then to Danielson, the big prop forward, back to Krilitic, second rower, but nicely tackled by his opposite number, Ron Lynch of Australia. New Zealand lost a little ground in that movement, by the way. Now Dixon got this one away nicely to Christian on the Australian 25. Passes to Dixon. Back to Krilitic. Good run too, but he gets a loose pass behind him and straight to Gasnier. Gasnier of Australia in possession, 15 yards out from the Australian line. Now it's Gallagher running on the blind side, making ground too, up to the 25, on to Hannigan. And Hannigan well marked by Colin O'Neill and nicely tackled by the New Zealand hooker. There's a Smith, caught by Bailey and winger Southern. Back to Gallagher, dummy half, Thompson, back to Langlands. Langlands, a long kick for Tate, right underneath this one, and now he's going to run for New Zealand, run to his supports, has Southern with him, was caught on the halfway line. That's Snell, the lock forward. Through the first line of defence, but well caught then, tackled by Raper, right on halfway. Neil at dummy half onto Dixon, now to Danielson, and it goes to Christian in the centre. Too many defenders there for Christian. It's just in Australia's half, close to touch on the grandstand side. This passes to Irvine, the 5'8", and that's the fourth tackle, and so referee Cold Pierce will set the scrum.
New Zealand are running in by themselves. There's no real close backing up that we're getting in the Australian side, and I feel that this could be one of their answers. The Australians are not covering a lot of ground, and real good backing up would be the answer.
Well, that was a nice run by the New Zealand lock forward Snell, taking play inside the 25 on Australia's half, and here's Dixon looking for the gap, gets it back to Krilitic, and he'll score. It's a try for New Zealand, and the scorer is Snell rather, not Krilitic. It was Snell. The lock forward has scored for New Zealand, and that makes the score now 13-7 in favour of Australia. And we've had now 33 minutes of play.
That was an example of what the backing up can do. One man in the tackle, one bursting onto him, and the result, a try to New Zealand. A good try it was too. He had to really make a little bit of an effort to get over the line.
Red, Snell and Krilitic look very much alike on the field, aren't they?
Yeah, they are very similar. They're both much the same build.
Yeah, similar build, same colouring. They look very much alike, those two. Now there's Tate converting, and that makes it 13 points to 9. And a lot better for New Zealand. Australia 13, New Zealand 9, and we have about 6 minutes left in the first half.
Well, that gives a bit of respectability to the score at this stage. And, although New Zealand haven't really appeared to have been in the game, they obviously are by the score.
Now, Smith plays the ball, but it's Langlands who kicks off for Australia, and this is deep into New Zealand's half. And Southern has dropped it. Knock on. The scrum will go down dangerously close to the New Zealand line. This will be about 10 yards from the New Zealand line. Dangerous now for New Zealand. It's an Australian ball too. Gleeson, the 5'8", on to Gasnier. Dummy from him. He's around McDonald and will be penalised for using McDonald as a shepherd. Penalty against Gasnier. And that was a fair decision too, because Gasnier dummied to McDonald and ran behind him so that the opposition couldn't get their hands on him, and so incurred the wrath of the referee and the penalty. Tate, the kicker for New Zealand. And he's found the line midway between the 25 and halfway lines, still in New Zealand's half. O'Neill takes the second kick. On it goes to Snell. Back to Krilitic this time, but he's caught just short of the halfway line, just in New Zealand's half. Now this is Danielson, back inside to Irvine. Nice tackle by Raper. Centre of the halfway line now. There's another penalty against Australia for offside play in the play of the ball. Once more, they're standing inside the 5 yards. And Kevin Dixon of New Zealand has been hurt.
But Dixon had these 6 stitches in his leg from a North Queensland game. Now, he has been in doubt all week as to whether he would play or not, take his place on the field. And I'm wondering whether it's the same injury again. They're carrying him off the field, so possibly it may be.
Well, this is unfortunate for New Zealand. Dixon has been one of the successes on this tour. He's played very well in all of the matches he's played for New Zealand on this tour. He's been perhaps the outstanding forward. And if he is going to take no further part in this game, it means that Bill Noonan will be brought on. And here comes Noonan. There you see him just passing Dixon as Dixon was carried off. Bill Noonan, the reserve forward, wearing the sweatband around his forehead. He too has been playing well on this tour, and I'm sure will acquit himself very well in this test match this afternoon.
This is another new player in the New Zealand side. Noonan has not previously played in a test match.
He showed very good form in some of the games in the New South Wales country centres. He didn't play for New Zealand against New South Wales or Australia in Sydney, but I saw him play in some of the country matches and was most impressed by this player. Now, penalty against Australia for the infringement of the 5-yard rule, and Tate has found touch short of the Australian 25, and O'Neill is up for the second kick. Goes to Danielson, back to O'Neill, on to Snell, up to, looks like Irvine, yes it is, the New Zealand 5-8. 10 yards short of the Australian 25. Given to Danielson on the burst, onto Noonan. Noonan caught just short of the 25-yard line. Snell at dummy half, gets it away nicely to Krilitic, or to O'Neill at least, the hooker. Noonan at dummy half this time. And it goes to Bailey, back inside to Tate, who's up from fullback. But Tate is caught in the 4th tackle. The scrum will be set right on the Australian 25.
A bad mistake then by O'Neill. He just put that ball under his arm and never made any real headway at all.
Again, great combination between Smith and Raper in the final pass to Gasnier onto McDonald, but he's dropped it. Noonan's onto it now for New Zealand. But the referee has ruled that Noonan didn't pick it up cleanly. He seemed to bounce off that ball, Noonan. When he dived onto it, he appeared to bounce off the ball, leaving it on the ground, but the referee has ruled that he knocked on. This scrum is about 10 yards on New Zealand's side of the halfway line and right in centre field. Schultz, who put the ball in the scrum, New Zealand. And Schultz in possession too. Got onto that one very smartly. Noonan at dummy half, gets his pass to Irvine, who kicks for the line. And it's a good one by Irvine, a very nice kick. Takes play deep into Australia's half. This is about 5 yards short of the Australian 25-yard line. By the way, Thompson is in the front row for Australia. Kelly having been dismissed in the field in the very first minute. And for New Zealand, Noonan is now in the front row. O'Neill to Snell, on to Bailey. Tate was up there from fullback, got it away to Christian, but McDonald standing right up for Australia, stopped the movement. Tate from dummy half, back to Noonan. Between the 25 and halfway lines on Australia's half. This one's being followed through very smartly by Krilitic, mishandled by Langlands, but Hannigan's back there in support. Knocked down by Krilitic too, who got to him smartly. Smith from dummy half, running nicely. Back inside to Raper. These two stick together. On it comes to Gleeson. Gleeson nearly in the clear. almost past the Noonan too, but it rebounds from him to Buman. And the Australian hook is caught just short of the halfway line. Still on Australia's half. It's Raper from dummy half onto Lynch. Inside to Gasnier, but he's lost it. Picked up by Langlands, but that one went forward. He must be recalled.
It was another very dangerous situation for New Zealand. The sheer speed of these Australian backs is wonderful to see.
Well, Gasnier, who was not down there, has been hurt. The Australian captain is receiving attention now. The score is 13 points to 9 in favour of Australia. And we only have about a minute left in the first half. Gasnier seems to be running quite briskly enough back to his position as the scrum goes down, and the scrum is just a few yards in New Zealand's half. Out to Smith, onto Gleeson, Irvine in from the wing, now McDonald, caught by Bailey, got it back into Irvine, to Gasnier, until he lost it. How he hung on to that one, I don't know. He seemed to lose that one completely. Now it's on to Smith, to Gleeson, just short of the New Zealand 25, to Thompson, back into Lynch, Lynch over the 25, Smith inside the 25, looked for Gleeson, but it fell behind him. New Zealand's ball, and Tate it was who got onto that loose one, saving the nasty situation for New Zealand. Now here's Danielson standing up with the backs. There's too many players there for him. About 15 yards out from the New Zealand line. Pass has gone to Baker on the wing. He too is well marked, and it's still inside the New Zealand 25, and that was the third tackle. Oh, this is a dangerous kick. Down to McDonald of Australia on the 25. McDonald through one tackle, and he's beaten Tate. Caught there from behind, gets it to Hannigan. Hannigan will score. He's over the line. A try by Hannigan for Australia right on half-time. That takes the score along to 16 points to 9.
Well, no, very foolish kick. I think it was O'Neill who kicked it.
It was, yes, O'Neill.
Yes, it was O'Neill, and they paid the New Zealanders paid the price for doing this in Sydney. I think, from memory, they gave away about 2 tries in the same under the same type of circumstances. Surely that's enough in a test to bring you to your senses. Wonderful try, a wonderful opportunity taken up by McDonald and finished off brilliantly by Hannigan. And all the best to the Australians for being able to take such a wonderful advantage. Very poor football from New Zealand, very poor.
Now McDonald again will attempt the conversion of the try. He's a few yards outside the 25 and about 10 yards from touch, so it's a more difficult one than his previous kick, but it's a good looking one from McDonald. A goal, nice kick. And so at half-time, Australia leads New Zealand in the second rugby league test by 18 points to 9. Australia tries by McDonald, Raper, Langlands and Hannigan. A goal by Langlands, 2 goals by McDonald. New Zealand, a try by Triletich, and 3 goals by Tate at half-time. That try, by the way, was by Snell, not Triletich for New Zealand. Snell, 3 goals by Tate at half-time. Australia 18, New Zealand 9. And now it's Australia to kick off for the start of the second half. Fullback Langlands moves in and takes the kick off. The deep one. Schultz under it for New Zealand, inside his own 25. Tackled right on the 25 by Buman, the Australian hooker. Now this is Triletich, second row forward. O'Neill at dummy half in the centre of the New Zealand 25 now. The pass is to Snell, the lock forward. To Danielson, back to Snell. Snell has support, gets it back to O'Neill. Progress to stop just outside the 25, about 5 yards outside the New Zealand 25. Snell kicks now. Langland's not back there in position, but Irvine gathers for Australia. He's beaten a couple of tackles, but Snell is up there with another of his teammates. To stop Irvine, between the 25 halfway lines, Australia's half. This is Johnny Raper, the Australian lock forward. more vigorous defence in the first minute or so from New Zealand. Now here's Gasnier out of a tackle, over halfway. Hannigan moving inside. Gasnier has kicked. Hannigan coming through, but Bounce beats him. Bounced away from Hannigan, and it's Tate in possession for New Zealand. That was another nasty situation for New Zealand. That bounce could have favoured Hannigan and would certainly have been another try. Now it's winger Southern for New Zealand in possession. Kilitic at dummy half. On to Noonan to try and clear the ruck with the Australian forward standing wide out there. Raper and Thompson. O'Neill. Oh, a bad pass over the supports, but grounded over the line by New Zealand. Safe touchdown there by Roy Christian. And a goal line dropout will follow.
New Zealand seem very hesitant. Don't seem quite sure what they're going to do. Waiting all the time. There's obviously no call from the man who wants the ball from the dummy half.
Tate was the kicker, and Smith has knocked on. Smith, the Australian scrum half, and the scrum will go down about 10 yards outside the New Zealand 25. And it's New Zealand's ball in. Schultz puts it in. It's out through the same tunnel, but there's going to be a penalty against the Australian hooker, Buman. Feed across the tunnel before the ball was in, and fullback Tate is the kicker for New Zealand. Australia leads by 18 points to 9. Tate finds the line almost right on halfway. He's just a yard still on New Zealand's side. O'Neill is up to take the second kick. It's on to Danielson. He's dropped it. O'Neill back to pick it up. Held by Buman. Gets it back to Kilitic. Inside to Noonan, but he's dropped the ball. This could be an advantage. I think it's Australia's ball. Yes, Australia in possession right on halfway. Now it's to Raper. Back inside to Gallagher. Making good progress through the forwards to Hannigan, who backs up. Hannigan over the 25. He's beaten Tate, but Tate knocked the ball out of his hands. Went forward. There must be a scrum. Well, he couldn't tackle Hannigan, but he certainly did the right thing by knocking the ball from his hands.
Well, an unfortunate incident for Hannigan. He was over there, and except for that, he'd beaten Tate completely, and it was only that hand that flew out of nowhere, knocked that ball loose.
And another scrum infringement, this time by New Zealand. And McDonald, I think, is going to take the kick. He's waiting for the ball. It's Gasnier with the ball now. And you can see McDonald standing in position on the mark on which he's going to place the ball. This will be a difficult one for McDonald. He's placing it about 10 yards outside the 25-yard line. And he'd be the same distance and touch on the grandstand side. The light northwest of which is blowing here will blow across the flight of the ball. McDonald quite a long way out. Kick, and it's not a good one for McDonald. Swings wide, and that's Snell, the New Zealand lock forward. Caught just behind his own 25. Christian at dummy half. That's to Bailey, the other centre. Dummy from Bailey, but not much room for him to move. Thompson was the tackler for Australia. It's on New Zealand's 25. This is Tate. Tate out on the blind side, and a bad pass picked up by Irvine on the wing. Australia in possession now. Irvine held on the New Zealand 25. And the pass is to Smith. Long one to Gleeson. Coming back to the blind. Has plenty of support too. Gleeson looking for support now, but can't get the ball away. Tackled nicely by Tate. He pinned his arms to his side. Gasnier at dummy half onto Lynch to Gallagher. But Noonan is the tackler for New Zealand. That's the third tackle. 15 yards out from the New Zealand line, and there's a penalty against New Zealand. Offside. And the player offside was Roger Bailey, standing well away from the ruck. Must have been at least 30 yards across field from the ruck, but inside the 5 yards. And so this is another opportunity for McDonald to kick a goal for Australia.
New Zealand cannot really afford to take any risks with offside play. They're a long way behind in it for a test match, and there's no chance of them catching up if they're going to continue to infringe.
And that's a better kick by McDonald, a goal, and it's 20 points to 9. Australia 20, New Zealand 9 after 6 minutes of the second half. Both teams, we repeat, playing a man short. Two prop forwards, Kelly of Australia and Orchard of New Zealand, having been ordered off the field in the first minute of play.
Yeah, this is reminiscent of the 1963 tour when both Peter Gallagher and Nunga Emery from New Zealand were ordered from the field. Maybe something about this Lang Park.
Well, now, a bit of mishandling there by both teams, and the referee is ordering the scrum 10 yards on Australia's side of the halfway line. They're about 15 yards in from touch on the outer side of the field. Those of you who know Lang Park, those of you who don't, it's on the eastern side. Australia's ball, but a penalty against somebody for handling the ball in the scrum. As you can see, Cole Pearce indicating that one of the forwards had handled the ball in the scrum, and Tate is the kicker for New Zealand. Fullback Roger Tate. That's a good kick by Tate. That takes play very deep into Australia's half. Less than 5 yards from the Australian line, and O'Neill has come up quickly to take the second kick. New Zealand in the attacking position now. The pass has gone to Schultz, but trying to go through himself, caught there by Lynch and another of the Australian forwards, but very close to the Australian line. Now that was Bailey at dummy half. Long pass to Danielson. Back inside to Snell, but he's dropped it. Loose ball. Irvine tried to pick it up. He missed it too, but the whistle has gone for the knock-on.
These long passes are certainly not paying off for New Zealand. They're not bursting onto the ball at all.
Smith ball in. Out to Australia, but it eluded Smith. Gasnier has it right on his own line. Evaded one tackler, but caught by Bailey. 5 yards out on the field of play, close to the Australian line. Lynch, Australian second row forward now, trying to clear the ruck. Nowhere for him to go. Passes to Langlands, the fullback. His kick is down centre field. Kicked over the halfway line by Irvine, but he's ruled offside. Irvine in front of kicker Langlands, and New Zealand given the option by referee Cole Pearce. And they're going to take the penalty kick where Irvine was ruled offside. They've elected to take the kick rather than the scrum, and Roger Tate will kick from just a few yards on Australia's side of the halfway line. I would have thought they'd have taken the scrum then, because it was very close to the Australian line, although this way they retained possession after finding touch with the penalty kick. Well, Tate again has found the line very deep in Australia's half. O'Neill, 15 yards from the Australian line, takes the kick on to Kriletich, to Schultz, and then Irvine. Irvine had plenty of support, but elected to try and cut back inside the defence then. Schultz at dummy half and on to Bailey. Danielson. Nice tackle there by Buman, the Australian hooker. Bailey on to Schultz. Out to Tate. No, it was a dummy from Schultz. That fooled everybody, including me. And now it's to Tate. Tate over the line, but he's forced into touch in goal. He was over the line with that ball, but forced across the touch in goal. Couldn't ground it. Or has it? No, he's awarded the try. Referee Cole Pearce has awarded the try. Tate must have grounded the ball. Try to New Zealand, scored by fullback Roger Tate, and that now makes the score 20 points to 12.
Well, that was very hard to understand. We're a long way away from the actual play here, but Tate's team appeared to have been carried over the sideline in goal, and not to have forced the ball, but obviously Cole Pearce was in a better position and awarded a try right on the sideline.
From our position, of course, we're behind the New Zealanders as they attack, and it was impossible for us to tell that Tate had grounded the ball. It appeared to me that he was held ball and all and forced over the line, but obviously he did ground it, and Tate is going to attempt the conversion of his own try. 20 points to 12 in favour of Australia. Tate kicking from the touchline. It's going to be to the left. And it's still 20 points to 12 in favour of Australia, and we've had almost 11 minutes of play in the second half. By the way, Tate has kicked 3 goals from 5 attempts in this match. McDonald of Australia has kicked 3 from 4 attempts. Langlands, who was the early kicker for Australia, managed 1 from 3 attempts. From the kick-off, it's New Zealand in possession, back on their own 25. Snell, the lock forward, trying to make progress through the forwards. Booker O'Neill at dummy half now. The passes to Danielson, followed by Thompson. Gets his pass away though to Krilitic. He's beaten Lynch, caught by another player, gets the ball back to O'Neill. And O'Neill almost passed that one to Buman of Australia. Held the ball at the last moment. Now it's Bailey, now to Danielson, who kicks. To Irvine. Irvine just in Australia's half, well marked by his opposite number, Baker. And centre Christian. Pass to Smith, on to Gleeson, now to Gasnier. Gasnier trying to get inside the defence. And he loses the ball. And here's Irvine running for New Zealand. He'll score, I think. McDonald chasing, but Irvine's there. He's over the line to score for New Zealand. Well, that ball was taken away from Gasnier as he tried to cut inside the defence. Taken out of his hands by Irvine, who has scored a great try.
Yes, that was a great try. It was from an interceptor. Actually took the ball as it left Gasnier's hands, almost out of his hands, in fact. And this has brought New Zealand right back into the game now. And I feel that you could see a bit of enthusiasm coming into New Zealand play, been sadly lacking up to this stage.
Well, this is what they've needed. They're within 5 points of the Australian score now at 20 points to 15, and this one from very close by Roger Tate could make it 20-17. And at half-time, Australia led by 18 points to 9. So we've had 6 points, 2 tries by New Zealand in the first 13 minutes of the second half. It's a vital kick for Roger Tate. It was very close, just to the right of the post, inside the 25. And he's converted it, and so there's only 3 points between the teams. Australia 20, New Zealand 17 after 13 minutes of play.
I think we all can expect a big improvement or a bigger effort from both sides now, and some wonderful football is sure to be the order of the day.
And the crowd seems to be coming alive now at the Lang Park in Brisbane. Towards the end of the first half, they were very quiet, but they're rising with the excitement of this game now. Only 3 points between the teams, and it's Schultz playing it for New Zealand. Past Krilitic to Irvine. This is a good kick by Irvine too. Irvine of Australia running back after it. He's inside his own 25, but caught by Baker and Christian again. About 15 yards out from the Australian line. Just trying to run from the dummy half position, but nowhere for him to go. Gallagher now for Australia, trying to get inside Snell, but he's caught by Snell and Noonan, and O'Neill there too. Langlands now for Australia. Kicks to the open side. Some bounces in front of winger Southern. Southern has it for New Zealand, just in Australia's half, but well marked by his opposite number, Hannigan of Australia. 8 up at dummy half. New Zealand was a little bit slow in getting back here into position. Noonan was there in position, took the pass. Noonan caught there between the 25 and halfway lines now in Australia's half and right in centre field. The pass is to Bailey. Now to Danielson. Lilly lost the ball. The third tackle now. Played to Bailey again. On to Schultz. Held by Buman and Gallagher. That was the fourth tackle, and the referee orders the scrum. Midway between the 25 and halfway lines in taken by Southern of New Zealand. Nice tackle, jump through that forward. Back to Schultz, who's lost it. Regained possession, so there must be a scrum. 10 yards outside the New Zealand 25 and not far from centre field. Snell. Nice dummy from Snell, but not a good pass then to his winger, Southern. Southern on halfway. Close to touch on the grandstand side of the field. There's Tate. To Schultz and out to Bailey, to Danielson, to Irvine. Irvine over halfway, but a lovely tackle from McDonald, flying tackle. 10 yards in Australia's half. Christian a dummy half to Bailey, to Danielson, to Noonan, who's dropped it. Kick through by Smith, chased over the halfway line. Scramble for the loose ball here, but I think it might be Australia's ball. Yes, it is. Gasnier. Now it's passed to Gleeson, to Lynch, out to Gallagher. Unusual to see Gallagher running in the centre position. There's Raper, on to Smith again.
Gallagher's having quite a good day, considering he's had to do a lot more work with one prop forward off the field. Risen to the occasion wonderfully well and playing good football.
Here's Langlands up in the Australian attack, but he's well held by Snell. Danielson there to assist Snell. And the referee now in to talk to Danielson, who perhaps did something there that he shouldn't have done. But no action against him, a scrum. And a penalty now against Australian hooker Buman. Once more, he's infringed by having his feet across the tunnel before the ball was in. And Tate is kicking for New Zealand. Now, he's found the line just on Australia's side of the halfway line. Second kick will be taken by O'Neill. That's Danielson. Now this passes to Snell. Schultz. Nice run by the New Zealand scrum half. He's just short of the Australian 25 now. Played past to Danielson. Across to Krillitech. Snell standing wide. Back inside to Krillitech, but it's dropped down behind him. Noonan dives for the loose ball, but it's gone forward, so there'll be another scrum. This time between the 25 and 5.
Whereas Australia have been pulling off wonderful moves by this inside pass to the man running up the centre, New Zealand appear to have not been able to capitalise on the mistake by the man not bursting onto the ball.
Well, again, the Australians at fault in the scrum. Tate will take the kick for New Zealand. The penalty has been awarded between the 25 and halfway lines in Australia's half. Right in centre field, and Tate is standing for the touch. Out on the eastern side of the ground, he's found the line. Another good kick by Tate. This is 15 yards short of the Australian line. O'Neill, the kicker, is going to run himself this time. Pulled down by Buman. Little more than 10 yards from the Australian line. Noonan at dummy half. On to Schultz. Schultz looking for the opening himself. Was nicely tackled by second row Thompson of Australia. That's Krillitech at dummy half. Back to Danielson. Danielson must be close, about 5 yards, but it was the fourth tackle. Again, trying to use his weight to barge through the Australian forwards, but they're allowing him little latitude this afternoon.
Danielson is inclined to run straight into the opposing forwards and make no attempt to turn and get the pass away to a supporting player. A bad mistake on his behalf.
Now, Lynch, who got the pass away to centre Gasnier. Australia in possession, 15 yards out from their own line. Here's Smith through a gap nicely over the 25-yard line. He's got the port. It's back to Langlands, who backed up. He's caught. His pass might have gone forward there. No, it wasn't. Picked up by Raper, given to Gasnier, to Langlands. Out it goes to Irvine. Irvine must score. He's over the 25. Irvine is on his way to the line. He's crossed the line and will put the ball down right behind the right upright. Irvine's second try for Australia. And Australia leads now by 28 points to 17 after 23 minutes of the second half.
Another wonderful work by back. New Zealand covered the fence, which is at this stage, and then Irvine's 2 tries virtually non-existent. A wonderful effort once again by Kenny Irvine
The New Zealand defence, and there's not a man in the New Zealand team capable of catching Irvine after giving him a start. Now McDonald again is the kicker for Australia, right in front this time. And it's another goal by McDonald, and that makes it 30 points to 17. Australia 30, New Zealand 17, after almost 24 minutes of the second half.
Well, the Australians would appear at this stage to have the game in safekeeping. I sincerely hope they continue to play this wonderful brand of attacking football that they've demonstrated so far, because it's been a pleasure to watch, although their handling at times has not been up to the best of international class. Their attacking ability is certainly great to watch.
And Tate kicks off for New Zealand. This is a deep one. Langland's underneath it, close to the Australian line. Oh, he was under a very high one there from Kulatich. Got his pass away nicely to Smith, down to the halfway, pass to Lynch. Lynch hasn't got the pace there, caught from behind and lost the ball. Now Bierman has it, but the referee has ruled knock on.
Billy Smith, one of the outstanding players on the field today. Every time he touches that ball, he's dangerous. Covered it, bends and tackles magnificently.
New Zealand ball, but the referee isn't happy. Schultz puts it in again. New Zealand onto Irvine. This is quite a good kick by Irvine, but Hannigan will win the race to this ball, well and truly. And he's around Southern, back over his own 25, running towards halfway, stepped out of Bailey's tackle beautifully. Now this is gathered by Tate on the New Zealand 25, but he's caught by Hannigan. No, he's breaking Hannigan's tackle, but beautifully tackled by Smith of Australia.
10 yards.
New Zealand's half now. The passes to Snell. There's a nice tackle by Thompson, Australian second row forward. Yes, it was Thompson.
There's a definite lack of understanding between the dummy half and the New Zealand forwards. And even not second right, there's no real cohesion there at all. No good understanding.
Now this scrum for the knock-on
is just a few yards on New Zealand side of the halfway line. Before the ball was thrown in. So several times now, Bierman has been penalised for the same breach. And Langland's caught this one over the touchline, tried to jump back in field for the ball, but the touch judge has ruled that he put his foot on the line. Langland, obviously, as you saw, unhappy about the decision.
That was typical of Langland's ability to try. Most players would never even attempt or think to attempt something like that.
Snell of New Zealand tackled with the ball inside the Australian 25. And it's Bailey at dummy half. Passes to Schultz as support. This is Noonan. Noonan held by Lynch. That's the Australian
25. A bit of rough handling of the tackled player there. But obviously one of the New Zealanders retaliated and has been called out for his caution.
It's the scrum half, Schultz.
And a penalty against Schultz.
Incidents such as this are unfortunate in a test match.
Well, these are the last sort of tactics that New Zealand should resort to. They need points on the board, not not the victory in the fight.
Now, Langlands was the kicker for Australia, and he's found touch between the 25 and halfway line still
In Australia's half, and Buman will take the second kick. Tap kick by Buman. Raper now.
to Gleeson. There's a play back into Thompson, on to Lynch. Lynch is about 5 yards from halfway, very close to touch, still in Australia's half. Comes on to Smith, on again to Thompson, second rower. Raper for Australia. Noonan anticipated Raper then coming inside, tackled him nicely. Buman at dummy half, back to Langlands. Nice side step from Langlands, but a nice tackle too by Pilitich of New Zealand. Schultz putting the ball in, New Zealand. New Zealand's ball, Snell, who stood out. Nowhere for Snell to go. So Neil a dummy half, Schultz onto Irvine in New Zealand's half, Christian to Bailey. Gasnier, you got it very rightly then for that tackle of his opposite number. Irvine across to Noonan. Australia leading by 30 points, 17, and a little more than 10 minutes left in this match. And here's Snell for New Zealand over the halfway line. Nice run, but a good tackle by McDonald. This is 10 yards in Australia's half. That was the fourth tackle, and so the referee is ordering the scrum.
The New Zealand team not getting back into position well. They're not running round the play the ball runs. In fact, they seem to be out of position continually.
This game has quietened down considerably in the last few minutes, and the crowd too has quietened with the pace of the game. Tate takes the penalty kick for New Zealand. And once again,
He's taken
play deep into Australia's half. O'Neill will break the second kick about 15 yards out from the Australian line. It's past to Noonan. Back to Schultz. But the next one is dropped. And Buman may have it for Australia. Yes, the advantage from the play. Yes, it's Buman's ball. This is Lynch for Australia. Tackled on his own 25-yard line.
Another disgraceful effort of tackling by Oscar Danielson.
And makes quite a considerable gain for Australia. The second kick will be taken just in New Zealand's half. Raper, Gleeson. Back to Smith, but he's dropped it. New Zealand's ball. Snell inside to Irvine. Well tackled by Lynch of Australia. That was a good tackle. Fellow Thompson, the Australian second row. It's a beautiful tackle. Copybook tackle. Danielson. Here in the third tackle. Tate to dummy half. Back to Southern. Caught on the Australian 25-yard line, and that was the fourth tackle, and so the scrum will be set. Australia leading by 30 points to 17, and we have 7.5 minutes of playing time left.
The game is certainly quieting down now. The New Zealanders are starting to, well, let's say, drag the chains is what it amounts to. They're not running into position now. They seem half-hearted in a lot of their attempts to play football.
Now the fault in that scrum was Colin O'Neill, the New Zealand hooker. One of the Australian players now requires attention. In fact, in my view, I'm not quite sure which Australian player it is receiving attention. We have 7 minutes of playing time left, and Australia leads New Zealand by 30 points to 17.
Well, I think that player could be Alan Thompson, the second rower.
Yes, I think you're right. Yes, it is. But he looks okay. Allen's back on his feet. And Gray will proceed with his drill against O'Neill, the New Zealand. Hanging the halfway line, but nicely held just in New Zealand's half. Smith and on again to Thompson, but the whistle has gone. And the New Zealanders infringed the 5-yard rule. Bailey it was who was standing up in the offside position. And McDonald has been given the opportunity of kicking another goal for Australia. He's kicked, by the way, 5 out of 6. Very good effort by McDonald. He's placing the ball this time right in the centre field and about 10 yards in New Zealand's half. There you see the distance. He's 45 yards back from the posts. Right in front. Another good-looking kick from McDonald, but it's under the crossbar. Tate for New Zealand. Up towards his own 25. The tackler is Buman of Australia, just inside the New Zealand 25-yard line. Snell, held by Lynch. It's a loose pass away, which Buman gathers in for Australia. Snell should have held that ball then. He had his arms pinned to his sides. Now the pass is to Smith. Back it comes to Gleeson, the 5'8". Out to McDonald, to Gasnier, to Langlands at least. Back inside to McDonald, and he'll score. McDonald through for his second try of the match. And that makes it now 33 points to 17 in favour of Australia with 5 minutes left.
Yes, that was another wonderful effort by Australia. They're backing up their speed. It's something to be seen. Much credit must go to the Australians for their good football, but the New Zealand defence is so appalling. I just looked across and that try was actually scored, and there were 3 of the forwards who should have been making some attempt to cover the fish. Standing on the far side of the post, close to the grandstand, where the try was scored. Wonderful effort by McDonald, but terribly weak defence by New Zealand.
McDonald is attempting the conversion of his second time. And it's a goal. Nice kick again by McDonald. Second test match. This has just about sewn it up now for Australia, not only this game but the series. Australia having won the first test in Sydney by 22 points to 13. Tate kicks it on. In goal area now, comes out in the field of play. Held by Schultz. 10 yards from the Australian line. This is winger Southern of New Zealand. Possession. Passes to Danielson. Back to Pruitt. So much alike on the field. Noonan this time. The replacement forward. Replaced Dixon, who was injured in the first half. By Kulitic, right out to the open side. Irvine of Australia has taken it. He's inside his own 25. Scored in possession. About 15 to 20 yards out from the Australian line. This is Gasnier. Gasnier caught just outside the Australian 25. They passed to Smith this time, to Lynch. Nice change of pace by the Australian second rower. But caught, tackled by Noonan. That was the third tackle. 10 yards outside the Australian 25. Smith now. Again he kicks. But it's out on the full. too far, and the scrum will go down where Smith kicked the ball. Australia leads by 35 points to 17 with 2 minutes of playing time left.
Dennison once again showed his inability to tackle anywhere. Tried to knock Lynch over, and I don't think he actually won that little duel either. Lynch is a much better footballer than Dennison gives credit for.
Penalty, this time against the Australian scrum half Smith, for not putting the ball in straight. Roger Tate coming up to take goals at this stage of the game. About a half left. Play. 35-17 in favour of Australia. The up and unders coming down to Gasnier, but he's dropped it. Donald gets onto the ball, but it's forward to Gasnier. The referee must have knock on. Just inside the Australian 25-yard line. This will be Australian forward. Smith, the Australian scrum half. And Schultz beat Smith to the ball. Schultz in possession for New Zealand. Here's Danielson. He could try and beat the team himself. Now he gets it back to Snell, on to Bailey, on to Tate, but it's behind him, kicked through. Followed down here by Hannigan. Kicked again over the halfway line. But Hannigan beaten to the ball by Southern, his opposite number. Just in New Zealand. Christian gets the pass back to Irvine. Irvine over the halfway line. But a nice tackle there by, looks like Gasnier of Australia. That was Breaker. There's the siren, as the ball is kicked through by Schultz. Irvine has overrun it. Kicked through towards the Australian line. Again, and here goes winger Baker after this ball. McDonald too, they dive for it. And I think Baker might have touched it. I think it's a try for New Zealand. Yes, it is. Try for New Zealand. Baker has scored for New Zealand after the siren on the field. This is bad. The referee has awarded a try. The crowd is under the ground. Will it be possible for Tate to attempt it from there?
Well, just by looking, I would say it's going to be virtually impossible to situation a little bit for New Zealand and give them a little bit more, shall we say, but still a very, very poor effort.
Well, the referee is making some effort to clear the players from the field. The referee is just close to the judges, and it looks to Tate is 35, New Zealand 20, and here's the kick. And it's a goal by Tate, so the final score is 35 points to 22 in favour of Australia. For Australia, we've had tries by McDonald, who scored 2, Raper, Langlands, Hannigan, Irvine, who scored 2, and Langlands kicked a goal. McDonald kicked 6 goals. For New Zealand, tries by Snell, Tate, Irvine and Baker, and Tate has kicked 4 goals. The final score in the second rugby league test at Lang Park in Brisbane, Australia 35, New Zealand 22, and so Australia has won the test series, beating New Zealand by 2 tests to 0 with 1 remaining.